যে আনিল প্রেমাদান কারণ কাচো
I'm very happy to be here and hear such wonderful glorifications of His Holiness Tamal Krishna Maharaj, who I first heard about in 1969 when we were exchanging letters in different temples, and we were hearing about how he had organized a Sankirtan party and was distributing that Godhead and collecting money, and this way supporting the temple in San Francisco. Because at that time I was the treasurer of Buffalo, which is on the other side of America. And my temple president, Prabhupada, had told myself, or my roommate, another devotee, myself, to go and get jobs, which is the last thing in the world I was thinking of doing when I joined Hare Krishna movement. Anything but this, I thought, and then I heard what Tamal Krishna Maharaj was doing in San Francisco, and I became greatly inspired to try and follow in his footsteps at that time. And we also organized our first Harinam party. We went out and we chanted in downtown Buffalo. And my roommate and myself, Priya, we went out with conch shells, and we collected $27 that day. So from the very beginning, he was my leader, and I didn't have to get a job. So it was a great inspiration. Later I met his roommate, Krishna Maharaj, and had the opportunity to stay with him, himself and his roommate, his assistant, whose name was Srinath. We stayed together for 6 months, and we helped open up the temple in unison. And then later on, Tamal Krishna Maharaj came by in Radha Damodar, and I had given him to the Houston Temple. I was in Boston at that time, and I had asked if they could give me some devotees to help our temple. So Krishna Maharaj said, "Oh no, actually we're not going to give you any devotees. We're going to take you and all your devotees." And that's what happened. So I had the opportunity to travel with the Radha Damodar party and to get trained up. I had the association of so many nice devotees on that party. And I had the association of Sri Radha Damodar also. And for some time I had a lot of association with Tamal Krishna Maharaj. 1980, he had asked me to become his personal secretary and travel with him on the bar. And also to be his pujari. He had little Ratha Damodar deities, one little silver Radharani and golden Krishna. Actually, it's silver Krishna and a golden Srimati Radharani. And I had an opportunity to be their pujari and to, more or less, Tamal Krishna Maharaj always had this idea that I would be a perfect devotee to go back to Godhead by simply thinking of Krishna 24 hours a day. And I would always say, well, no, I'd like to do it with management. He said, as far as I'm concerned, if it's up to me, you'll never be a manager. So he always encouraged me in one way and one way only. But he was very sweet about it. It was probably the one thing we never agreed on. But gradually I started to realize what he was talking about. Because I actually, in many ways, I was trained by him, his appreciation for my ability to be Krishna conscious was such that he encouraged me to be more and more Krishna conscious. Although I think how much he saw I was Krishna conscious was a lot more than I was actually Krishna conscious, but he was very, very encouraging. At that time when I was the secretary, he made sure that, or as much as possible, that I was strictly engaged in my service and I wasn't involved in any kind of politics. But then suddenly I realized that the BBC at that time had converged in different places and they were instructing the new gurus in different ways, sending them to different places. So in Chicago, the whole BBC came, and Tamal Krishna was, every day I was cooking for him. He had given me his 3-layer tier, which I'd never used before, and he'd asked me just to cook from there some rice and stuff. So every day I was cooking from it, I didn't know how to reuse the cooking pot. So the rice wasn't coming out as well as I knew he usually expected it to come out. But every day after these meetings, he'd come back and eat the prasad, and although it was not very good, he said, "Oh, very nice." So then I knew something was wrong. And I was with him in the same room, and I saw he wasn't sleeping nights. So then I knew something was definitely wrong. So then finally he came to me, and he said, "Well, they told me to go to China." So I was completely shocked. So I said, "Are you going to do that?" He said, "Yes," because I think Prabhupada wants me to do it. So at that time, it was a great lesson for me how to actually become renounced. Because the worship of the gurus at that time, the whole, more or less, we were looking to the gurus at that time, the new gurus, as the successors of Srila Prabhupada, who would take his position and lead the society. So much respect, so much adoration, so much facility was given to the gurus. But I saw that Tamal Krishna was willing to give it all up because that's what his godbrothers wanted, and to go to China. So for some time, I had many different dealings with Tamal Krishna Maharaj, but I saw ultimately when it came down to it, that he was a very serenity soul, and that if you wanted to get intimate with Tamal Krishna Maharaj, all you do was have to be a little affectionate to him. He reciprocated affection so much, and if the affection was in Krishna consciousness and service, then he was willing to give himself completely. So, last time I saw him, he had just come, I had seen him a couple of months before in Oxford, and he had just moved there. And then at the BBC meetings, he came in, I embraced him. And we were part of the aim of the exercise that we were going through at that time was to glorify each other. So I was glorifying him. And then at the end he said, "Well, I heard that you're up for BBC again, for a dome." So he said, "Isn't it ironic? Here I am, I have been here for something like 6 or 7 years, and here finally I'm here again, just at the time you're up for the BBC." So I looked at him and smiled and said, "I won't say a thing." Anyhow, maybe a zone on BBC again, anyhow. But it was a very affectionate exchange. So Tamal Krishna Maharaj, he does.
Vaishnavas allow me to stand this for me and counts. Okay. You should also do this job, just do this job, keep an eye on it. I'm just going to focus on the Radha aspect of my relationship with Tamal Krishna Goswami. We had heard about him because at that time it was just Vishnu John Swami, the Lordship Sri Radha Damodar, and 8 other brahmacharis, which included myself. And we had heard there was some talk by Vishnu John Swami that his dear godbrother, Tamal Krishna, might be joining the party. And this was maybe early 1974, January, February 74. And there was talk about it. And finally he did come to the party, and that was around May, I believe, of 1974. And at that time, I was still a bhakta. I hadn't been initiated yet. In the next month, I received initiation. And the thing I remember most, I remember many things about him because we did keep communication over the years. But I remember his facial expressions. I think Tamal Krishna Maharaj was criticized and praised because he was such a complex person. He was a powerfully intelligent, logical, calculating person. And I use that word calculating not in a derogatory sense, because he impressed me so much with his intelligence by his ability to extrapolate and take a situation, and he was able to expand on it, expand on it, expand on it, and have every aspect of the expansion figured out. That amazed me. Especially later on when Bhaktivedanta grew from a ragtag group of 8 brahmacharis who were, I would not use the word undisciplined, but I would say that it was more of a carefree mood at that point with Vishnu John Swami was very soft. I mean, we had regular morning programs, we were very strict in chanting our rounds, but the group of brahmacharis at that time, we were kind of the liberal side of the definition of brahmachari. But Vishnu John Swami was so loving and so kind, he kept us all together very nicely. And then when Tamal Krishna Maharaj arrived in May, I remember looking, and we had heard so much, and I joined with Bhakti Russ, who later became Radha Mohandas. And Bhakti Russ was a real character. And Bhakti Russ said, as soon as Tamal Krishna Maharaj came to join our party, he looked at me and he said, now we're in for it. As Tamal Krishna Maharaj came, he was holding his standa, and he walked on the bus. And we were looking at his face. It was like watching a camera, like a high-speed camera. He was taking pictures and assessing everything. The bus, all the brahmacharis, and of course, Radha Raman was a character to assess because he had a huge sika on the back of his head that he turned around and just looked like a guy with long hair. So he had this huge sika. So I could see Maharaj was assessing everybody. And every situation, he was just looking at us, taking those pictures and storing them in his memory bank, and he was already figuring out what to do with us. Who was going and who was staying, and who was fitting into the master plan. And then I remember I paid my obeisances to him. This was like probably one of the first things he said to me. I paid my obeisances to him, and I got up and he rubbed my head. And he said, "Oh, you're going bald." And I didn't know what to say. Thanks, Maharaj. And he said, "It's all right." He said, when Prabhupada saw me, I paid my obeisances, and I got up, and he rubbed my head, and he said, "You're going bald." And he said, "That's very auspicious." He said, "But now you don't have to shave so much." So he says, "Obviously, he said, I'm meeting in the friend of me." I said, "Well, thank you." So that was the beginning of our relationship. And as I said, he's a complex person. extremely intelligent, extremely logical, extremely calculated. And if you didn't get beyond that, you might be at one's own insecurities and fears, and they see only that side of it. But his heart was, as everybody was saying, the later when we were birthday, his heart was soft, immensely soft. And he would always look at me, and he would always give me like a kind of a New York half smile. I don't know if you've been to New York or born and raised in New York. New Yorkers somehow don't fully smile. We only half smile, like one side of the face. And he would always give me a half smile. He would always say, "Hey, Lakshmi." I said, "Hey, Lakshmi," and then he would say something else. So one morning I went in and he said, "Hey, Lakshmi." This is when the plan of developing Radha into a forced traveling sannyasis and brahmachari. He said, "I'm going to train you." I thought, oh my God. He said, "I'm going to train you. You're a sincere devotee, and I'm going to give you the benefit of the training that Prabhupada gave me." So he made me the secretary. And one of the responsibilities of the secretary was that Tamal Krishna Maharaj, as book distribution was increasing and increasing, he wrote out a very specific, detailed report and sent it to Srila Prabhupada every week. How many books were distributed, how much Lakshmi was collected, how much we were sending to the PPT, how much the expenses, everything. And I was in charge of the ledger. So on the bus at that time, you had basically to keep all of your possessions, you had a cubby. Everybody had a cubby, the brahmacharis had a cubby about maybe 5-6 inches wide and about maybe 10 inches high. And then it went back, so you put your arm in there. And everything you owned, you put it in a cubby. And that was it. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj and Krishna Swami had their cubbies, which were just a little bit larger, but not much. So I remember he asked me for the report, and I'm a little bit forgetful, so I didn't remember. And I went into my cubby and it wasn't there. And I said, I came back and said, "Maharaj, I gave it to you." And of course, he was so forceful and so convinced. And he said, "No, you didn't." And I said, "Well, Maharaj, I only have one place to keep it. It's in my cubby. It's not there. I'm almost positive I gave it." And he was getting angry, and his face changed. He was getting angry. His blue eyes started flashing. And he said, "You did not give it to me." And he was pacing back and forth, and I was sitting there, and he was chastising me. And I kept saying, "I gave it to you." And he said, "I gave it to you." He said, "You didn't give it to me. I already checked my cubby. It's not there." I said, "Maharaj, please check your cubby one more time." So he kind of got really frustrated. He threw his hands up, swung the door open. He said, "This is not a very big place here, Lakshmi. It's not a big place. And I've taken everything out, and there was nothing." And he stopped, and he looked way in the back. There was the report. He pulled it out and he goes, "Oh, here's the report." He said, "Only you would have taken that from me." And he paid his attention. Yes. So you can see, we have these sides to him. But that's the beauty of any individual. What to speak of a Vaishnava? What to speak of a Vaishnava of this caliber? He had many sides. And he showed them to his friends, to his godbrothers, to his disciples, loving at one time, hard as thunderbolt at another time. He was bent and determined to train me, even though I was untrainable. So he allowed me to hold the Lakshmi for the collections. And he did it, he trained me, this is the way Prabhupada taught me. It's a money belt. In India it was a cloth, but we were more sophisticated in the West, we had a money belt. So he told me to keep the money belt always on my person, under my kurta. Never to take it off. So I said, "Maharaj, how am I going to shower?" He said, "You take it off, but you keep the shower curtain open." Okay? So, we were at the Boston Temple. The arti was just about to start. I had been preoccupied with things that Maharaj was giving me to do. And I took a shower really quickly. I hung the money belt on the hook. And then, due to my forgetful nature, I bolted out of the shower, got dressed, and went down to the kirtan. We're having kirtan, we're having a good time. And all of a sudden I had this feeling like I was like half naked. And I reached down and patted my stomach. I forgot the money belt. It may not sound so significant, but at that time I was carrying about $20,000 to $30,000 before we made the deposit. So, panic. I ran upstairs to the Brahmachari ashram, ran to the shower stall, pulled back the curtain, the money belt was gone. I didn't know what to do, I just sat down. I'm not going to see him. I'm going to better than blue. I'm going to go see Maharaja. So, before I could think of looping, one of the brahmacharis came and says, Maharaj wants to see you. He's psychic. I went downstairs into his office. His back was turned. I guess what he was doing was trying to compose himself, but he's serious. So he turned around and he was serious. He said, Lakshmi, I need some Lakshmi. This is like setting me up, for chaos. So I said, Maharaj, I can't find money. And he didn't, then he just got, you can't find money. That is Prabhupada's money. That is for the BBT. Go search for the money belt. I said, Maharaj, it was only in one place. It's not there. He said, go search for the money belt. So he made me search for an hour. And I came back after the hour. I said, Maharaj, it's nowhere to be found. He's gone. So he sat down and he roasted me a little bit longer. And then he said, I have it. And he threw it on the desk. And I said, then why did you do this to me? Why didn't you just chastise me and get me out there? He said, Prabhupada did the exact same thing to me. That was that you keep the rupees rolled up, and I left it. And Prabhupada was saying something. He said, you're lucky, I only did it for an hour. I said, Prabhupada did it for half the day. So he made me look for half the day. And he said, I just wanted to teach you, you've got to be responsible. This is not our money, it is Krishna's. And all the books are working very hard. I just wanted to teach you to be very responsible. So those are a few instances, but I can say honestly, just as Prabhupada manifests himself in different ways, he would always chastise, he was always heavy with Tamal Krishna Maharaj. And with Krishna Goswami, he never chastised Krishna Goswami. And Tamal and my relationship, after he made the futile attempt to train me as a manager, our relationship was wonderful. He let me do pretty much anything I wanted to do, and he always gave me encouragement. Even over the years, every time he would see me, one of the things that he did, and I always remember this, is, after those episodes, and after we had established our relationship, and I really wasn't the manager, that I was doing a sanctum work. But he would call me into his room, and I would, conditioned response. Uh-oh. And he would call me in the room, and he'd look at me and say, Lakshmi, let's chant. And that was it. And then we would just chant back and forth. And then they would go on, and we would wait. And another time, because I was always on Sankirtan, I was sent, the nature of our Sankirtan at that particular time was that we would do state fairs. And Prabhupada was going to be in San Francisco, and the new Bhaktas, Bhakti Marty, who's now leaving Madhava Maharaj, Bhakti Larry, that's me, and Bhakti Russ, were going to get initiated in San Francisco. But we had already booked the fair, and of all places, Minot, North Dakota, I guess, or South Dakota. I think it was Minot, North Dakota. So Bhakti Marty and Bhakti Russ had the opportunity to go to the state fair. And I didn't, I didn't go on state time. So I got initiated. Krishna Goswami gave me my deeds and told me my name was Lakshmi Sringadevi Das. So I hadn't had a fire sacrifice, so I was with Maharaj, Krishna Maharaj in LA, and they were having a jaga. And he said, you didn't get your jaga, did you? I said, no. I said, okay, let's go. I'm going to sit here and get your jaga. And we were walking up, and he stopped and he looked at me. He said, no, you feel like you fall down. I'm bringing you, to this fire type. It was just like really nice exchange. Through the years, I would call him on occasion, and sometimes I would see him, and it was always heart to heart. Our relationship was always heart to heart, even though in most recent years, he was doing his project, I was where I was at. But every time he would see me, it was always a full heart to heart exchange. And just like all the devotees, I was totally devastated when I got the news. I was sitting in my bedroom. And I realized when you have a relationship with someone, it's a piece of your heart. A loving exchange with a godbrother, a friend, it's a piece of the heart. And particularly, not only a friend, but a very dear disciple of Srila Prabhupada. And I felt at that time, I remember feeling that there was a very powerful vacuum that was left. That was a lot of remorse that I didn't have more of this association, a lot of regret that I didn't take the opportunities. And when I did have the opportunities in recent years of this association, that I wasn't able to fully take advantage of that. And even to this day, I see I have wonderful God brothers, God sisters, God nieces, God nephews. And that ability to fully take advantage of all your association, it's an elevated platform. And I just pray to Maharaja for continued friendship and encouragement, and the eventual ability and awareness to be possessed of that quality of taking advantage, fully taking advantage of the association of the wonderful assembly of devotees who have dedicated their lives, their youth, their youthful energy and vigor to giving Krishna to the conditioned souls. It has been said that Tamal Krishna loved his God brothers. That is definitely true. It is said that he loved his disciples. That is definitely true. He loved Srila Prabhupada. That is true. He also loved all humanity. Because who would give, as he has given, to introduce suffering conditioned souls to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement? So that love is all encompassing. And a great devotee possesses that love. And he was one such devotee. Is one such devotee.
I now realize my fate actually had been cursed from the defense of the previous birth, that if I hadn't constructed the stages and temple homes, I would have absolutely no control over it. It happened to me in '96 also. It was wonderful. We were having the observation for the problems, and it was wonderful. We would just get going and going. This was able to pull out the bug and into the eternity mode. We didn't have to worry about the time. So what we're going to do, we're going to keep making tributes until oh yes, so 20 and start walnut. Yeah, I know. Okay, so that's the way we'll go. We'll try. Again, we would like to go over everything, but the problem is we have control by the time factor also. Festival. So we'll go with 20, start walnut. What was your name?
So nobody minds, I'd like to speak something very personal. I believe it was 1978 or 79. Tamal Krishna took my husband and gave me my number. So I think that was more than a fair exchange. And when that happened, I thought, oh, what does this mean? I had no idea. I was just a simple person, in the background, a little small devotee, and I really didn't know what the plan was, but I had, because of his strength and his commitment and how dear he was to Prabhupada, I knew that was the right plan for me. And I had full confidence that even if I didn't see it, if I just followed and made a vow to him, that I would try to fulfill my part of the bargain, that I'd be safe and protected in my Krishna consciousness. And without a doubt, I felt so much his blessings and protection, shelter over the years that I feel that's the only reason I'm still here. Made very wonderful relationships with his disciples, and they also offered me so much shelter. And I have a very wonderful relationship with his brother and his family, who are also very, very wonderful devotees. So as time goes on, it becomes more and more manifest that it's only by the mercy of the devotees that we can do anything, and that's our real shelter and our real protection. And not even that many times, but after that, maybe 3-4 times he would come to Vietnam and he'd ask to see me, and he was always inquiring about Radha Damodar. And I thought, how could he ask me about Radha Damodar when he's, totally devoted and has served them so lovingly and so connected with them? But he always made me feel like I had the connection. And I would say, oh no, don't ask me, I have to ask you, you're the one who has that loving relationship. But he always gave me some confidence that everything will all right if I just keep trying, and, I'll be able to stay with the process. And, alongside all the mercy, another kind of mercy comes, which is so famous about cooking for Tamal Krishna Goswami. So he came to eat an artery once, only this fast, because it's a little bit of a horror story, but if you see me red now, I'm going to turn 100 shades redder in a minute, but he, such a rush there, and Tamal Krishna Goswami, so, you wanted everything first class, and everything had to be just right, so Baladevi Bhushan, who was serving Satyaraj at that time, came and said, I will tell you something very, secret. Tamal Krishna's favorite thing is jalapeno pepper pakoras, and you can make them for him, and he'll be so happy. He said that there's a whole process, you have to, poke the pepper with, poke holes in it and soak it in salt water, and I'm so excited. Maybe I can do something nice for him. So I made these chili pakoras, and we sent them down to the cabin, and I stayed to clean up, and our other devotees serving. And, knowing such a runner's nature, he just wanted everything to be so nice and so proper, and, trying to please him. And so, and Baladevi Bhushan was the server, so he was all part of it too, because it was all coming from him, so he gave me this nice plate, and he picked up the chili pepper pakora, and they were all grown from Vietnam, so that made it even more special. And you get into this pakora, and it was a complete, nightmare. His face turned completely, I wasn't there, but I had heard about it. His face became all red, he shot out of his chair, his nose was burning, he ran to the bathroom. And I tortured him. I totally tortured him. Wanted to please him, but it had just the opposite effect. And then the devotees came running up to the kitchen. I was spread away, and they said, "You're finished." What? And they told me the story, and they said, "We have a message for you." And I said, "Oh my God, Krishna, I'm finished. I'm devastated. What do I do now?" They said, "Maharaja said, who made these pakoras?" And they said, "Oh, Mother Queen made the pakoras." And he said, "Well, tell her to try one and have a bucket of water by her side." So I really felt, I'm already finished, but really finished. So So I thought, oh my God, what can I do now? So I had heard that he liked carrot sweets, like all kinds of different things covered with carrot. So I got some carrot and I made this whole box of nice little papers with all the covered cherries, covered raisins, covered nuts, and everything. And wrote this letter, and I thought, this is my only hope. You know, not forgiven by the devotees. You are finished. You made it against it, and we don't forgive you. So I sent it down with the note and everything. And then actually I don't remember what happened after that. But if there was a reply or anything, I don't think there was. But 2 years later, he came again to be with me, and I was given another chance, and I made this. I milked the cow, and then I made the birthday, and I covered this beautiful white birthday with gold leaf. And we served it to him in the cabin. Bhaktivedanta was with him there. And we served him in the cabin on this black plate. So he had this black plate, white birthday, and gold leaf. And it was like the most stunning thing you've ever done. And he took some of that birthday, and I was peeking in the door from the other room. And he took it and said, this is what he said. I'll be honest with you what he said. He said, I just came from New York, but this birdie is the best birdie I ever tasted. So I looked by that. And then the last time I was in his association was 2 years ago in Vietnam, and he was there, and he was having a meeting with all these devotees, and the devotees would all go to his house and everything, but I never got to go to his house because there are certain devotees there that I will go to his house. So he asked to have a meeting with us, and the only place he could arrange a meeting, since we couldn't go to his house other months anyway, was to meet in the middle of the temple room in Rinjani. So it was after he would come every night. I ate this kirtan, Maharaja, and just like you could tell, he was in complete ecstasy. He wouldn't miss that kirtan. And there would be such loving exchanges between him and I and the voice and everything. And then afterwards, we're standing there like, two little children, waiting to speak to him, and the voice was pushing us forward and everything. We were like that. And he was just, how are running over there? And how are you? And you just felt, you felt so protected and so loving. And I became eternally indebted to him. And I don't think that debt will ever go away, and I think that debt is what gives me the strength to go on in my Krishna consciousness. Only thing I don't have to do, and only thing practically I can offer Prabhupada is I can milk a cow. So I don't have any good qualities or any kind of learning or scholar or, I'm not a preacher, I'm not anything, I can just barely milk a cow. But I know by the mercy, I'm convinced it's the mercy of the devotees, like all of yourself, that there's any hope for me. So I remain eternally indebted to Maharaja.
Why doesn't everyone stand up for a minute and stretch their arms up and take a deep breath? Take out your legs a little bit. For thou art living, still and sound. Vaishnavas die to live, and in living try to spread the holy name around. I think that one of the things in this great Vaishnava leading is that it brings everyone together with very deep feelings of separation. And the feelings of separation, as we understand, are the highest, because they really go deep right to our very roots. I didn't even realize how deeply it affected my life until we left. And I was stunned for a few minutes when I heard it. And And of course, I immediately contacted the devotees in Dallas and found out as soon as I could, even his children, disciples, and so forth in Dallas, which is one of his homes. Although he has so many homes, every place was his Prabhupada dish. Wherever he was, even for a short period, it was as though that was his home. An example, when I was in Dallas at the first ceremonies, that first weekend, Ladini Shakti Prabhu and his wife had come from, where did you come from? Kansas. And they brought along with them an American-born Islam professor. And this professor had had one lunch with Gurudev at one time when he was visiting there. And he was so impressed with Gurudev that he had written a song. And he brought his guitar and he sang this beautiful poetic song that he'd written to Gurudev and how he'd actually changed his life just in one lunch. And there were also a few other, there was a woman that had known Gurudev over the years. And one of the things that I really, one of my biggest appreciations of him was that he treated everyone equally. He was not discriminating between devotee and so-called non-devotee. He saw everyone as a devotee. As once Srila Prabhupada said, somebody asked him how many disciples he had, and he said, every one of my disciples, some know and some don't. Something like that. So he was equally loving to everyone. And the deeper you got into your association with them, and of course the deeper you will feel the connection. The word that strikes me the most about Tamal Krishna Goswami is the word lavya, intense anxiety. Sometimes Prabhupada would call it greed. The transcendental greed. Being really greedy for association and learning and trying to understand what is this Krishna consciousness. Sometimes he was criticized for this volume, but that was his greatest strength. One time, Jamuna, Prabhupada's disciple Jamuna, revealed to me that when Tamal Krishna Maharaj joined the movement, she thought, oh my God, what are we going to do now? It was like, he was so intense. He knew that there was going to be like a big change. It was like the corporate manager coming in. And he felt like all the sweetness was going to go because like, the devotees explained how you would see laser light and you would see everybody up and down and you felt this big resistance. And I thought, what is that resistance? And it's the resistance to surrender, a causeless unwillingness to surrender in terms of actually acting on what you learned. He was a real actor. Action in Krishna consciousness, and he commanded that from everyone that we surrender now. And I remember when Maharaja and I came back from Spain. We had been in Spain for 4 years, and there was a period of devastation in the movement of another guru. And we came back to New York and decided we were just going to, find an apartment, get jobs, and work. Forget about living in the temple. So we got to New York and thought we have to go and see Radha Govinda. And then I heard that Tamal Krishna Goswami was here, and immediately I felt this resistance. Because I knew that if I came to the temple and he knew that we were there, that he was going to call us in and tell me something that maybe I didn't want to hear. Sure enough, we came to the temple and he was there and he called us up and he said, you have to stay in the temple. It's a graveyard. It's your responsibility to break, to get things at least going and help. And he was one of those people who would just go right in, and it was like an offer you couldn't refuse. You couldn't refuse. Another thing was in, I think it was 1975, in my court, Lord Guru was asked to be a servant, which he did for about 3 months. Now, Lord those that know Lord Guru, he was also very refined in his tastes. So he made it his business to do everything so perfectly that Guru would find no fault, because he was so expert at finding whatever little flaw was there. So he made it his business to know every detail. And Goswami was getting a little bit frustrated because he couldn't find anything to criticize. I mean, everything to the T. But this one day, in his room, there was a marble floor, and he had put the prasada table in this, in the same space every day. And this day, that was moved just slightly to one side. Do you think he noticed that? He did. He said, the table is moved over. So even though that sounds, very mundane or whatever, he just noticed every single detail in every way. And even though, like I said, it's insignificant, it is not insignificant because the details is what creates the big thing. And weaving together the spiritual and the material is like trying to weave oil and water. And yet it has to be woven because it takes spiritual energy to move material, to create a festival, to organize a party. And that's why he was such a great leader, because he knew how to bring in, how to move things. And we all know how hard it is. In the smallest way, remember in the years that I was doing theater, to do the smallest, simple performance took just incredible amount of effort. And he was a master of that. When I visited Dallas, or when I live in Austin, Texas, so I visit Dallas whenever I get a chance. Usually go about once a month. I do programs at my house as well. It's a beautiful community that he's manifested there to help with so many other Vaishnavas. But for example, one time somebody was complaining that their wife wasn't cooking nice prashadam or something like that. There was an unhappy situation. So Gurudev started going without telling anyone, right? Not even me, that he would stop by and have prashadam in the evening. So the women didn't know whose house that he was going to come to. So everyone was cooking this incredible prashadam. He would just pop in someplace. And the men were becoming fatter. Anyway, and then other times we would just go to across the street to one of the free hospital homes and have prashadam and lay down and take a nap, play with the children. He knew everybody's name, everybody's business, what was going on, everything. It was just incredible to be at his home there when he would come and visit, or when he would come and stumble room. It was so, it still is, but it was just incredibly familial. He was like a father, a friend, and whenever I would come up, he would invite me in for breakfast. And I mean, his Vaishnava etiquette was just beyond compare. We had these wonderful breakfasts, and I remember the first time he came, he goes, "Oh, I hadn't seen him for so many years." And he goes, "Oh, you've maintained yourself very well." Another thing that I appreciated about him, he didn't, although he could appreciate beauty in a woman, he never felt any edge of sexuality. Sensuality, yes, but not sexuality. And that is a great thing for a man. To be able to look at beauty in the face and see Krishna and appreciate it. Because Krishna is the supreme sentient being, very sensuous. There's a big difference between sensuality and sexuality. And that's what I appreciated so much. Another quality that I appreciated so much with His divine grace. I still used to call Him His divine grace because in Dallas, the devotees were, in Dallas, He was their Prabhupada. And in some ways, I have to say, all the time that I spent up there, He was as close to Prabhupada as anyone that I have done service with. And he reminded me sometimes of Prabhupada, which isn't really surprising because he was trained by him. And he was so eager for that training that the qualities were imbued in him. And I loved him very much. And I missed him very much. And I think the movement, individually and collectively, is a great loss. Because he had such a big vision, he could be with anybody and be a great representative of Krishna with all the qualities of Vaishnava today. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
I can't sit down. My watch is on. Sorry. I have to pay attention to my watch. I have a watch.
Hare Krishna.
And greetings from the Dallas community. I'm also representing a lot of other devotees when I say that. There's many, many devotees in Dallas who really like to be here right now. So let's, if you can give them your blessings, and we're about to have a Vyasa Puja on the 28th of June, and we're hoping that His Holiness Maharaja and a few others will be here to make it happen. And you're all cordially invited. Of course, Nityana is going to ask me to pay for the hotel, but all right, so with that in mind, I had the privilege of reading Srila Sastri Maharaj's eulogy for Srila Gurudev, and his opening sentence, I think it's the most profound thing I've ever heard. I mean, I've been hearing a lot of things, but what he said was, so now you know what it's like to lose your Guru. And I thought, wow, that's pretty nice. That's pretty intense. So I thought, what does that mean? Well, it means for the past 27 or 30, 20 years, Srila Prabhupada has loved the planet. Everyone has been tolerating him. It's incredible. Tolerating, well, carrying this burden of love in their heart. That Prabhupada is here, yet he's not here. I mean, Vani is always here. So, Bapu is not here. Now, Bapu is not here for me. So, what does that mean? It means that now I can try to, in a little tiny way, try to understand the incredible responsibility that Srila Prabhupada's disciples have been taking on for so many years. Everyone knows who's been trying, who's not trying. Everybody knows who's in the ring and who's quitting. So that's my offering to you, that I understand now what it's like to lose my spiritual master. At the same time, the body is really the most important aspect, and this is where that saying comes in. And yes, and my husband shall you should help me understand it more. But I think the good association, I'm starting to understand what body is. My husband's reaction was that he fell to his knees and he said, I thought I'd have more time. I thought I would have more time for my Guru. Where is he now? And that's all I could think. Anyway, my husband's a totally different person now, so I gotta keep up with him now. So anyway, I hope you don't mind me mentioning that. Okay, now there's one more thing. There's a Prabhupada disciple who really wanted to be here. She had to go back to Cleveland, and her name is Krishna Consciousness. You all know her. She's a fired up preacher, Krishna Consciousness. Anyway, so she wanted me to relay the pastime. In 1997, many of you know that Shri Radha College celebrated their 25th anniversary on the Dallas altar. And so Srila Gurudev, along with all the temple leaders, they put together a very wonderful ceremony for Shri Radha College. And how many of you been to Dallas? I think. You don't know how big those deities are, right? I know they're not tiny dudes, they're real big, you know, so the idea of bathing and all those substances, it was really to engineer that. Well, between Professor Pandit, Srila Gurudev, Chaitanya Chandra, Radha, so many of these other devotees that were, sold out, devotees, they figured out a way to bathe Radha Kalachanchi and with all the substances and channel all that stuff into the most, clean trash containers, and it was an incredible, like a river of nectar coming off the altar. So Krishna Nandini, as you know, is the original Pujari for Shishila Kalachanti. She dressed them first. She's one of the original Pujaris. She was one of the ones that they located. So Gurudev called her in, and she'd been away from the movement for a while. And he told her, first of all, she wanted me to say that her treatment in Dallas was unsurpassed. She'd never gotten treatment like that in her life, and she felt that the pressure from it and all the devotees that children that treated her beyond compare. It best her to come back to Islam in a real way, and in the core of her heart. And she wanted me to say that Gurudev actually revealed to her that he said, why don't you, he said, you should understand something. That you're a Krishna's aunt. Did you know that you're actually the aunt of Krishna? Because you were here when he came. So this is your position like that. And she said that it just struck her like nothing, she couldn't think of anything for a long time. She just was amazed by it. So, anyway, I don't know. I don't know what my relationship is. Probably cockroach or something with Krishna, but I don't know. All I know is that Gurudev can see what all of our worth is. And if he can engage someone as useless as me in Krishna's service, I think it's testimony there, right there. And Mataji was just wanting me to share that. How that someone like him could actually understand her process with Krishna. It's not ordinary. But the more she thought about it, she saw herself as someone like that. She can see, she can feel the relationship with Krishna now. And she says, due to that exchange she had with Gurudev. So I don't know, maybe you can write to me and preach to me about that. But she wanted me to share that. I'm sorry, it's kind of such a filthy word. Okay, you ready? How did I do? It's alright. I'm trying to be like, what's that horse? Warren was triple crown. Anyway, I don't know. Anybody want to come out? You want to start?
We're going to continue.
Anyway, I'm not really, I see you as an expansion show great. And when you started getting nervous about time, I started, boy, I don't get my clock nervous and stuff. I just want to respect you. There's other devotees out here. I mean, Yasko, did you speak? Did you actually speak? No?
We're going to have to go up.
Yeah, so.
Well, Mother Quincy is hard act to follow.
I forgot to tell about the story about Kirtida. The reason one time Maharaja was saying that Gurudev carried, or who was the song saying that they were carrying Kirtida, it was because he actually brought her like a baby onto the altar so that she could put her head at the lotus feet of Radha Kalachanchi. That's why Guru Maharaj picked her up, so that she could actually put her head at the lotus feet of the deities. Before, it was like less than 2 weeks before she left her body. Yeah.
Again, I have to beg to be humble. I think I would be blessing the Vaishnava community to allow me to say something that's appropriate and the word of glorification of the divine grace of Krishna Goswami. there are many devotees here who are senior, and many of them have spoken so wonderfully. And I personally feel, without trying to be overly humble, that basically anyone here could speak wonderful glorification, and I'm sure do a better job than myself. However, somehow or other, the powers that be have asked me to sit here, so I'm a little bit nervous, to say the least. I would try to think of a few things, but I thought that I had reasoned the way I was speaking today. So I'm going to quickly try to remember what it was that I thought I might say, in case I got trapped here. And one of the few things that I was thinking earlier while hearing the devotees speak was the variety, the wonderful nature that Sri Gurudev had for doing an extraordinarily variegated number of activities in Christian service. It is said that one should be expert or should be very good at it, or one should know a little about everything and be at least expert at one thing. But His Holiness Swami Maharaja was very expert at very, very many things. And anyone who spent a bit of time with him would be constantly amazed at how he knew so much about different subject matter. And as everyone knows, Srila Prabhupada was also renowned for that ability. He engaged me because of my own quirkiness and my own sort of hypersensitivity and over-passionateness at certain times. He engaged me in some rather unique services, like making stained glass windows, or at one point he called me in his room and he said, this was totally surprised me, "You're going to make a float for the Dallas Cotton Bowl Parade." Okay. How do I do that? You'll figure it out. And then he said, "How much money do you need?" $20,000? He turned to the devotee who was president to give him money. And sure enough, we produced the float. And so
Did you know that it won? It won.
he used it the following year. Promotions for the Cotton Bowl Parade, they used it in advertisements actually. So I would just very briefly like to say that in my association with my Gurudev, that he would place you in positions where you felt that it was impossible to do what it was he asked you to do. He would literally at times ask you to do the impossible. And I don't remember which incident it was when he asked you to do something on a very short deadline. I said, "Well, I'll try the best I can." "Don't try, do it." Those are words to live by. And I'm going to end there because I'm just not very together today. I got a little toasted in the sun yesterday. About the festival. I'm a little scatterbrained. Thank you very much for this. Hare Krishna. I just want to thank everyone for the offerings today on behalf of the disciples. I'm certainly not qualified to speak for any disciples, but I want to thank the movement in general and let you all know the outpouring that's occurred, how beneficial that's been to the disciples of Tamal Krishna Maharaj. It's been very, very nice to experience the outpouring of love that's occurred. We've really come to see what a special person Tamal Krishna Maharaj was. We knew how wonderful he was, as many of us did, but we didn't know the depth of his love for Krishna. So it's increasing the more these things occur. And I'd like to thank all the devotees in Europe, Bhakti Prabhu, so much for doing this. It's a very nice thing. And I had a realization a couple of minutes ago that even though Tamal Krishna Maharaj has physically left us, when he's spoken about in this way, he's actually been here. All of you sitting here have gotten a huge overview of his personality in a very special way.
And it's really, it may even be more powerful than having been with him personally. To have heard all these realizations condensed in this manner, it's very powerful. And I don't have very much faith, and that didn't come to me until the end. I didn't know that me coming here, that I would get so much benefit from this. But I wanted to thank all the Prabhus and Matajis that have come, all the devotees that have come for this, because you will benefit from this. You have associated with Tamal Krishna Maharaj by being here. And the kind of person he was, we're very, very lucky to get even a few minutes with such a soul as he. But he loved everyone very, very much. He especially loved his god brothers, and he was very, very attached to them. He loved his disciples. He loved everyone he met. He was exemplary to. I wrote a lot of things about him. A lot of nice things that have come out. He had a tremendous sense of humor. You got to see a little taste of that from some of the stories the devotees gave. But as a final thought, I just wanted to mention how whenever Srila Prabhupada needed someone to blaze a path in a special way, when there was a special problem, he would call on Tamal Krishna Goswami. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj was always there and really blazed many paths, set wonderful examples. So I think that's what he's doing now. He's the first big guru to leave in this way. Other gurus have fallen down, but Tamal Krishna Maharaj kept his vows to the limit, unbelievably. So he's left in full Krishna consciousness. And so now he's still setting the standard. He's still being that person that blazes the trail for Srila Prabhupada. And I'd like to offer my obeisance to all the devotees and beg for your blessings. Thank you. Tamal Krishna Maharaj.
Namo Krishna Goswami, Krishna Consciousness, Namo Krishna Goswami, Namo Krishna Krishna Consciousness, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Namaste, Saraswati, Gauri, Charani, Shishmaya, Krishna. So I was, the last 2 years I got the honor of doing some personal service with the monks in England. So I had always seen him as a great figure and had more of an odd reference in his relationship. And I was always impressed with his ability to do big projects to Srila Prabhupada, which I think so many devotees have also been impressed with. To try to think of something to say in a short time, I was most impressed with his ability in personal relationships. So sometimes in this world there's kind of a tension between someone who's trying to do big things and treating people in a personal or nice way. And I think in the beginning of his career he was perhaps more project-oriented and wanting to do big things with Srila Prabhupada. He was so successful. But as we've heard from all the devotees here today, he was also very much able to nurture devotional relationships. So it's certainly been there. In England, I saw that he always, he said many times that he liked to have the full-size Prabhupada birthday even in his residential place. He always had Prabhupada very close, even in his birthday form. So I think his first relationship was so strong and special with his relationship with Srila Prabhupada. Besides the fact that Prabhupada called him when he first woke up in his last days, there was at some point in ISKCON's history where Prabhupada felt that some of the senior devotees were minimizing Prabhupada's position, and Prabhupada called Tamal Krishna Goswami to Japan and we was there to, he wanted his support at that time. And then in the course of serving Srila Prabhupada, Tamal Krishna also interacted with many of the senior leaders of Gautam, such as Sridhar Swami, Maharaj, and he had a wonderful relationship with them as well. They appreciated the devotion and faith that all the devotees in ISKCON had for Prabhupada. And they especially appreciated it in Krishna Consciousness because he's always sort of right hand man to Prabhupada. Then the Goswami Maharaj's relationship with God brothers. And when I was in London, Krishna Prabhupada was here, Cycle Prabhupada in England, said how much that the devotees in England appreciated more Krishna Maharaj in the early days. Krishna Maharaj mentioned that when this terrorism happened at the Twin Towers here in New York, that he always kind of thought of Srila Prabhupada with Tamal Krishna Maharaj, because as a young Bhakti in England, he'd always seen pictures of Srila Prabhupada, and many of the pictures Tamal Krishna Maharaj was there. And he had heard of the Radha Damodar party. So one time they came through the Radha Damodar devotees like Tripurari Maharaj and Tamal Krishna Maharaj and Ghosh and many of the Bhakti leaders came through England. And he always had this sense of Tamal Krishna Maharaj being with Srila Prabhupada in a very big way. And he said that when these twin towers kind of disappeared from the skyline of New York, to him it was kind of like he had seen Tamal Krishna Maharaj as a kind of a tower of Islam. And that his disappearance from the scene to him was very significant, almost like when Srila Prabhupada left. And so his relationship with his godbrother was very nice. One thing that I noticed was that Tamal Krishna had served in India as the first GBC, and he many times said that he really appreciated Indian culture and Indian devotees. And he learned so much about respecting prasadam from his experience in India. And I know that he encouraged Indian devotees that were in the West to not just be congregational members, but he encouraged them to become initiated devotees. I believe in the early days in Chicago, he named quite a new devotee, Indian body devotee, to be the temple president, which was quite controversial at the time because there was many big sannyasis there. And but yet the idea that Indian body devotees are naturally connected to Krishna culturally, and they can become very advanced devotees. But when he made this decision, I heard there was some kind of confusion. Why a new man is the temple president? You've got sannyasis and big senior men around. And later in Houston, he named an Indian devotee the president, and the whole Houston project developed in a very nice way. Many of the Indian body congregation members became initiated devotees. So he had a very nice relationship with Indian body devotees and encouraged their participation in this time. And I would type his emails and things, and I could see how much affection he had for his disciples, especially his disciples in China. And he would send letters to them because there's no temples in China, they can't have too many big kirtans and meetings. And he really appreciated their surrender. So when he would take these emails and give a tape, and we would type it from the tape, his voice was full of emotion and love for his disciples. And in his own family, someone mentioned how his own family became his mother. She's gone to Vrindavan before, and she's gone preaching, kind of like, she's not even a devotee, but she went to Vrindavan with devotees. She went to China with other devotees. So she kind of preached by being the mother of the guru, and so the disciples gave her all kind of affection, and she had a full taste of Krishna consciousness through the love that was pouring from the disciples to her. So he engaged his mother in serving Krishna in so many ways. He engaged his brother in, when he started doing writing work, writing books like Sagan Kriyananda and Servant. At some point he learned his brother was a scholar. So then he engaged his brother in doing editing work for some of the writings he did. And his brother and his family become wonderful devotees. And so even relationships, usually sannyasi severs relationships with family. But he showed by there's a higher principle that one sees everybody as devoted to Krishna, whether they're in a different kind of body, Chinese, Indian, or even if they're in your own family, to not be more averse, materially averse to that. But he just saw everybody as a devotee. And I saw how he also dealt with scholars and people like that. And I didn't have a sense that he felt less of them than he did with devotees. He just saw everybody as a spirit soul. And he would have them for prashadam, and whether they were a very, very big person, but I know that he, one time he had to make a telephone call, so he borrowed £1 from this janitor at college in Cambridge. And then he remembered later, like about 2 weeks later, he remembered this. I was going into town in bicycle, so he said, give £1 to this janitor, and he remembered his name. So, like, even from the janitor at college to the big scholars, he was always, very personal. So, if I could think of anything that, for me, to say in a short time, was that he was so personal, and he became more humble, I think, as time went on. And if anyone wants to read his last Vyasa Puja offering of 2001, I remember when Srila Prabhupada was in Vrindavan near the end of his life, some of his godbrothers came, and then Srila Prabhupada apologized to the godbrothers, saying that in preaching I might have been heavy and said heavy things. Of course, they took no offense when they glorified Prabhupada, but Prabhupada had a very humble mood. And I saw that if you look at the Vyasa Puja from Tamal Krishna Goswami in the last 2001, he actually apologized for any offense that he made to any godbrothers or devotees in this time. And he said that he's learned to see value in every devotee. And he gave the story of someone carrying a pot and one of the wooden thing like this, and there was two pots. One was holding the water nicely, and the other pot had a leak in it. And so the pot that had a leak in it started to feel ashamed that it was leaking and not doing very good service all this time. But then the person that was carrying the two pots understood the mood of the pot that was feeling deficient, and he said, "No, I've seen your quality, and don't worry, you made a nice contribution." So the person was carrying the pots had planted some flower seeds along the path. So he said, "I'll just show you what you've done," and so, in a positive way. So he carried the leaky pot back on the path, and there was a whole row of flowers that had grown. Because then he gave this idea that every devotee in ISKCON is special, and that he had learned this lesson, and he wanted to give that idea. And so even though he's a very big leader, he achieved all the things that everyone has mentioned. I think many devotees saw his soft and very humble nature that he had as well. And in one sense, he was like the Lord Brahma. Like he was a big manager in ISKCON, or maybe the biggest manager. And Brahma does big managerial activities. But then he also left this world in the place of Paradise Upward. So how do you put together like Lord Brahma and Haridas Thakur? But we hear this part that Lord Brahma sometimes had he was doing a big thing, but he would say he would sometimes become very humble and say his prayers to Krishna, and so he was awarded the position of Haridas Thakur. And so Tamal Krishna had a side of it was like Lord Brahma, but at the very end, like Bhaktivedanta Swami was saying, he was just doing the activities that Haridas Thakur had done, of hearing and chanting and association with devotees. So when he left this world, this was his Lord. To the Tamal Krishna.
I'm going to ask by asking a code, because the chanting, you chant 15 minutes, bhajana, and then we have a continued setup, we're bringing it next to Vyasaki, we're going to the devotees, and immediately at the end of the
So this offering of heartfelt memories, smarana, smarana, is a very important part of our national tradition. And by offering glorification to the Vaishnavas, Shastra teaches us that we make very wonderful advancements. But also, simply by hearing the glorification of Vaishnavas, even if we are not glorifying ourselves, but simply hearing the glorification of Vaishnavas, we also make advancements, wonderful advancements, take this to Krishna Consciousness. I want to share my association with Tamal Krishna Maharaj, which was on probably a unique level, which hasn't been touched on yet. But Tamal Krishna Maharaj was an artist. He was very artistic. And he related to me on that level as two artists. In 1992, he had written this book, a drama, Srila Prabhupada Anjalila, which I very much wanted to get, because I read his other books, Servant of the Servant and Jagannath Priya Natakam. I was in Calcutta with Tamal Krishna Maharaj when he finished his Jagannath Priya Natakam, and they had just been published, and now he wanted to present it for the Mayapur Festival. I don't know what year it was, I think it was 1986, something like that. And he hired different people, actors in Calcutta, trying for the different roles, and he was the director. Now he was the writer, now he was the director, directing the play. He was very frustrated with their performance, because they just weren't up to his standard. So, when this book came out, the Srila Prabhupada Anjalila, I was in California at the time, so I very much wanted to read it. So, he's so skillfully written it, as he's so skillfully written the Jagannath Priya Natakam about his pastimes of Lord Jagannath. So he was bringing out this bhava and mood of the disappearance pastimes of Srila Prabhupada. And I was becoming more and more moved by it. And I was beginning to feel very deep emotions. And it reminded me of when Srila Prabhupada left this planet. I was in Bali with Satyanarayana Prabhu at the time, and we were distributing Srila Prabhupada's full sets of books to all the different libraries in Southeast Asia. So we had just finished doing Java, and we had a headquarters in Jakarta, and we had one nice lady devotee who was acting as our secretary. And now we were in Bali, and we're going to go to all the colleges there. So this one morning, Satyanarayana, he went to his college, and I was going to go to my college. But before I left, I decided to call Jakarta just to find out how things were going The orders were coming in, the books were coming, everything was going smoothly. Her name was Arvindakshi Devi, so I called up Arvindakshi. Haribol, so I asked her, she said, have you heard? No. Prabhupada had passed away, I just got the message. So I was a little bit shocked and stunned. Okay, put the phone down, so what am I supposed to do now? And I thought, well, I just go and preach, that's what I'm supposed to do. So I went to that college. And I arrived at the college, and walking down the hall, after I'd gone to see the librarian and sold out, it took us down to order one top, I was supposed to know. So going to be walking down the hall, I met a Mr. Puja, who is from Jakarta. He was the head of the Hindu part of the government, representation of the Hindu, because it's a Muslim country, it's the largest Muslim country. He said, have you heard about your guru? Because we had met him in Jakarta. I said, yes. I was very surprised. Even in this little town of Singaraja, people had heard the news of Prabhupada. Then I went back to where we were staying in Denpasar, and it was my duty to inform Satyarthaya, the Prabhupada language. So he came back, and there were a room, I called her Arvindakshi, and she told me that she was not fine. And immediately he was overcome with emotion, and he was crying, and he was sobbing, and he was uncontrollable. And I was thinking to myself, God, I am understood. This is the good Krishna. And for years it really disturbed me. I was thinking, what kind of a Vaishnava am I? I have no love for Srila. So I'm reading Srila Tamal Krishna's book, and I'm experiencing more and more of this feeling of separation. And then at the second last chapter, just as Prabhupada's about to leave, and then he leaves, I become completely filled with emotion. I begin sobbing uncontrollably. And I just went on for a long time. And then I realized that I was eternally indebted to Tamal Krishna Maharaj. Because through him, I was able to experience what I never did experience from Prabhupada actually. But now I was able to experience the separation, the loss, and my Guru Maharaj. So I thought to myself, I'm eternally indebted to Tamal Krishna Maharaj. Then I turned and read the last chapter. The last chapter, something very wonderful. It's Tamal Krishna's understanding of what happened after Prabhupada left. And I thought it was very wonderful. And so, after putting that book down, after finishing it, I resolved that I would have to go and see Tamal Krishna Maharaj, and I wanted to tell him that I was enjoying the meditation and thank him for writing this book and for allowing me to feel those feelings that I could never express. So subsequently, maybe a year later or something, he was in Dallas, and there was a temple president's meeting in Dallas, so I went there. I think that's what it was. But anyway, there was a lot of young brothers there. And then he invited some God brothers up to take lunch prashadam with me. He invited me to come up. So I came up, and the servers weren't ready, the prashadam wasn't ready, so the devotees were kind of milling about and chatting and this and that. And I saw that he was alone, so I went up to him and said, Maharaj, I just want to tell you that I feel eternally indebted to you because after reading your book, Srila Prabhupada, I was able to feel the loss and separation in my heart went to the actually expressing feelings from this experience of Srila Prabhupada. So I want to tell you that I appreciate it so much that I'm eternally indebted to you. So he was very happy to hear that. And it was a nice connection, connected to the IC. And then he said, what did you think of the last chapter? And I said, I thought it was Paramatma realized. He said, really? And then he smiled and he said, so did I. And then he said that he'd gotten a lot of letters from people criticizing that last chapter. Like that they thought it was a speculation. How does he know what happened with Prabhupada and everything like that? And he was feeling very uneasy about that. received, and I assured him, I said, this is definitely not for that. Anyone who doesn't feel that, doesn't appreciate what we have, don't take it seriously, because they're not worship as anybody else did. So he appreciated that. That was very nice. He also told me that I don't know for how long he did this, but he told me at that time, every morning when you wake up, you would only put on 2 tapes. On one morning, you put on a Srila Prabhupada tape, and then the alternate morning, you put on my tape. He said, every morning, you only listen to Prabhupada and me, he said. So, that was nice. Appreciate each other's heart. Then somehow I was inspired by Radha to glorify the devotees. So I began to interview many different devotees. I wanted to interview Tamal Krishna Maharaj, of course, because he's, one of the key players. So in Mayapur, I finally, because I tracked down, went to Mayapur, so right after to Maharaj, I explained to him what I was doing. He said, do you have an outline? Oh, yeah, I had a whole outline. Can I look at it? Sure. So he looked at it. This is the history of Sankirtan. I said, yeah, that's right. So he really appreciated that. He said, how many people have you interviewed? We interviewed about 100 people at that time. So I said, you interview everybody else and then come back and interview last. So I didn't get an interview at that time. So I went around, and after having interviewed 500 devotees, came back to Mayapur. And then a couple of years later, I went up to Sister's room and I said, you're not interview. So we had a very, very nice interview. Very, very nice interview. And a lot of those pastimes are in the first morning. So then the book subsequently came out, and I was in London. I was traveling around. I was in London, and he was in Cambridge. And I was thinking, I'm so close to him, I have to call. I cannot be in London and go without calling. So after the morning program, after breakfast, I was in London, Cambridge, and I called him up. Someone answered, Haribol, said, Hare Krishna, this is Bhaktivedanta. No, I didn't say that. I said, Hare Krishna is Tamal Krishna Maharaj that day. And he said, I'm sorry, he's taking his breakfast, but he's not taking any phone calls at this time. So I said, okay, well, can you tell him that I asked you that to call and ask him what time I should call back? So I said, okay, hold the line. And I waited for about 30, 40 seconds. Then he came back and he said, Maharaj will speak with you. So then Krishna Maharaj came to the phone and he was very, very happy. I had wanted to give him a book. That was another reason why I called him, because the book had just come out and I wanted to give it to him. But it turned out that he already had it. He read it already. I guess he wanted to see what I was saying. So I asked him, well, how did you like the way I portrayed you? He said he loved it. He said, I love being in a subordinate role. The way you portrayed me in a subordinate secondary position, because it was more focused on Vishnu Jhana. So he liked that very much. And he said, I like the book so much, he said, that I'm gonna instruct all my disciples to purchase this book of the age. And he was true to his word. Because all of his disciples from all the different zones contacted me and all purchased the book. So we had a very sweet relationship based on appreciation of each other's art. So he was an artist, and I remember, I forgot to mention this point, after I finished reading that Srila Prabhupada, I said, reading the book of his, I was thinking to myself, why is he wasting his time managing? He should be writing. He's such a brilliant writer, he should be writing, right? And he's also a great kirtan. In the early days, he was always playing the drum and leading fantastic kirtans. And here, I was in Brooklyn and we went there from 84 to 90. And he was a GBC at one point, and he would come. And we had a Harinam party that would go out to Manhattan to chant. And it was mostly the new Bhaktas. There was one devotee, again his name, black devotee. What's his name? Anyway, he was nice to me. He was really nice devotee. He would take the new Bhaktas out. And when Tamal Krishna Maharaj came, he would go with that Sankirtan party. He would go down there and enjoy the chanting of the new Bhaktas. And most of us, we like to go to more senior boys, but he loved Harinam so much he would go out of Harinam to do practice. So when I heard that, I was very impressed. And he actually had such a love for the holy name. So such a wonderful personality. So the Vaishnava way of appreciating a personality like that is just smiling, just being smiling. And here we have a very wonderful song written by the great Vaishnava Acharya Narottam Thakur. And his realizations about glorifying the Vaishnavas and how we feel the loss of their separation.